Welcome, everyone. Today, we are diving into an in-depth explainer on retail strategy. Have you ever looked at a massive, chaotic consumer market and thought, how do successful brands figure out exactly who to sell to and how to talk to them? Well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to break down the exact chronological steps of market segmentation, strategic targeting, and product positioning in detail.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Our roadmap today is a strict three-part progression. First, identifying market segmentation. Second, evaluating strategic targeting. And finally, developing product positioning.
Now, this strict sequential flow is the absolute backbone of retail strategy. Every single phase is a critical foundation for the next. I mean, think about it. If your segmentation is flawed, your targeting is going to be entirely off the mark. And if your targeting is off, well, your positioning will completely miss the audience. It's really an architectural build, and understanding this dependency is how you truly master this stuff.
All right, moving right into phase one, identifying market segmentation.
Think of the entire retail market as a massive, jumbled puzzle that we need to break down. The very first action you have to take is figuring out your bases. That's the foundational criteria used to categorize a broad market. Before you even look at the people, you got to decide on the rules you're using to divide them up. Are we dividing them by geography? Maybe by age and income? Or, by lifestyle and values? Identifying these lenses is literally the mandatory first hurdle in any retail strategy.
Okay, so once you have those foundational bases locked in, your next move is to determine the important characteristics of each market segment. You've drawn the lines on the map. Now, who's actually inside them? What makes them tick? For instance, if your segment is young urban professionals, what are their specific buying habits? What are their pain points? You're basically giving these abstract, high-level groups distinct, relatable identities.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our second phase, evaluating strategic targeting.
Now, this brings up a super critical question. How do you actually evaluate these newly defined market segments? You've got multiple segments mapped out, right? But you can't realistically go after all of them with the same intensity. We need a specific dual lens evaluation process applied to every single group we just identified.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the two specific metrics we use for this dual lens evaluation: potential versus commercial attractiveness. What is the inherent growth potential of this group? And, crucially, what is their commercial attractiveness to your specific brand? A segment might be huge and growing like wildfire, meaning high potential, but if it's way too expensive for you to actually reach them, then their commercial attractiveness is pretty much zero. Weighing these two factors is the absolute heart of strategic targeting.
And all of that rigorous evaluation, it leads to a single definitive action, selecting one or more segments. This is the big moment of commitment. You've looked at the whole puzzle, you've evaluated the pieces, and now you are making the calculated choice of exactly where to focus your retail efforts.
So you've identified your segments, evaluated them for potential and attractiveness, and made your final selection. You know exactly who you're going after, but the strategy doesn't stop there. Once a segment is selected, what comes next? How do you actually translate that high-level market choice into a reality on the retail floor?
That takes us directly into our third and final section, developing product positioning.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we move from the abstract to the concrete. This is where the broad, high-level market strategy becomes incredibly focused. We're no longer dealing in broad strokes here. Learning tips to develop details of product positioning means deciding on the precise messaging, the exact price point, and even the specific shelf placement of your product so that it perfectly resonates with the targeted group's characteristics.
So the crucial point is visualizing this entire strategic funnel we just walked through, identifying broad segmentation bases versus developing precise product positioning details. You start wide, establish your bases, determine the characteristics, evaluate the potential and attractiveness, make your strategic selection, and finally, you narrow all the way down to the pinpoint precise details of your product positioning.
Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought to ponder. If you flawlessly execute those first two steps, like if you perfectly segment the market and target with absolute strategic brilliance, is your product positioning guaranteed to succeed? Or is all of that rigorous preparation just the ticket to enter the arena, marking the real beginning of the retail battle? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.